Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Most of you know that I've been retired from working on instruments now for about 2 years and a few months. Occasionally I pull out the old luthier tools and work on an instrument for close friends and relatives. And such is the case today. I have an instrument here from a good friend. His name is Bert Pichon. He lives down in Louisiana. Got to know Bert over the last several years in Mountain View, Arkansas. We'd come up there whenever we're playing there, and he brought me an instrument that's it's just too cool to not work on. That's all I can tell you. And it is a Martin 0018, and there's a brochure that was included in the case. And it says effective August 1st, 1939, but then it says reprinted July 15th, 1941. So it's an old brochure. There is also a repair tag in there that, interesting enough, says check out new strings, new bridge, use your judgment, check out and call. On the back, it says one set of Dean Markleys and adjustments. So apparently they didn't do the bridge. This thing really does need a bridge job. It needs a new bridge because this bridge has been whittled down so low that it's just not effective anymore. I don't know if you can tell it, but it's just very thin, which is not good for the top because that makes it weaker and that makes the top pull more. The neck angle it's just past the point of return. I mean, if you put a full-size bridge on this, the neck angle is way bad. The way it is right now, it's sort of bad. You know, with this cut down this low, it's still a little high right here. In fact, let's just test that and see what it is. Bert, by the way, I'll just mention right up front that most of the products you see me using are on the Products I Use page of my website, www.rosastringworks.com. So here's the little wedge that I use that tells me in thousandths how high the strings are, so let's look at it. All right, at the 12th fret, I don't think we're crazy high or anything, it's just that we're not low, considering how low this bridge is. Yeah, we're pretty high. It's right at 100 thousandths. You could make a case that it's 103 or 4 thousandths on the bass E. On the treble E, I think it's a little better. Yeah, the treble E is not bad, actually. It's about 90 thousandths, which is just, you know, a hair high, if anything. It's not enough to care too much about. If that was the only problem, I wouldn't worry about it. But again, because this bridge has been cut down so low, and because when I look down the flat plane of the top, I can see the neck is going like this considerably. Basically, when you look down this like this, roughly the end down here should be roughly level with this, but it's definitely quite a bit above it. It's above it by a good ½ inch. So that's, you know, the angle is really bad. So we do need to fix that, and we do need to get a regular bridge on this thing. And then I think she'll be good to go. So ain't nothing to it but to do it, and that means we gotta take the neck off this thing, take the bridge off this thing, major surgery. I think I can still do it, even though it's been a couple of years. I feel like I know what to do and how to do it. Let's see if we can get it done. In a situation like this, the very first thing we got to do is get her unstrung. I didn't bother playing it for you now because it doesn't really matter what it sounds like right now. It only matters what it's going to sound like when we're done. It sounds fine, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it the way it sounds right now. In other words, you wouldn't notice much difference, I don't think, in the sound of the before and the after. You know, it's just not set up for long-lasting durability and playability. And that's what we're fixing to do, is to change that and make this thing last another 80 years or so. There's a lot of ways you can approach this. On a vintage instrument like this, I'm going to try to do it with as least amount of damage as possible. See, if you took the whole fretboard off, you're going to have scarring all down through here. There's no way you're going to avoid it, because there is no zipper. You have to break it. And you're going to have some kind of damage all the way down through there. Typically, you can make that very minimal, and it's almost not noticeable, but there's always some damage. No matter what anybody else tells you, there's always some damage. If we can avoid taking the fretboard off, that's what we're going to do. So the least invasive way to do this is to pull this fret, see if we can drill a couple holes down through the joint here, and put some steam in here, soften this joint. We'll have to take the end of this loose, of course, and we'll try to soften this joint, wiggle it enough until we can finally get it out. That's your least damaged way to do it, and it's probably the overall best way to do it on top of it. And it would save time in addition. So the first thing we've got to do is pull this fret right here. Now, I typically wet these down real good before I pull them, and some people will say, well, that swells the wood up, but wood doesn't swell lengthwise. Wood only swells widthwise. And the reason I do that is because when you soften those fibers, when you pull these frets out, those little cleats that are on your fret don't yank out the rosewood here. You can chip that rosewood out really badly if you don't wet it down. Can you still chip it? Heck yeah, and it may still chip. There's no way to avoid it 100%. Like I said, there's always a little bit of damage. So what I'm going to do is I've got warm water here. Warm water is almost always the thing you go to whenever you're doing anything like this. Regular water works, but warm water works a little better. You can see I'm painting it under here, and the water actually gets sucked underneath the fret because of the capillary action. So I'm just painting it on there, dousing it pretty good. That'll soften those fibers and give us our best chance of getting this out of here without much problem. At least I hope we can make it out, get it out of there without a lot of problem. Then another thing you can do, and it's not a bad idea, is to wet down a little cloth like this. And I like to rub it back and forth this way. Believe it or not, that seems to force the water under there better than going this way. In fact, if you look there, you see that it dried it off. Where if you go back and forth this way, it keeps the water there, and it looks like it's going to well, it just definitely forces it under there from my experience. All right, so let's pretend like we got enough there. I think we do, but let's just hope we do. And then what I do is I take a pair of these end nippers, and then I ground this off smooth. Most of them have a little indentation in there, but I've ground mine off where they're perfectly flush. And I slide them down here, and I try to get just a little piece of that fret. And I do it real gingerly and just work myself across this fret. And the reason you want these flush like this is this part's against the wood. So this part's holding the wood down as the bevel on the inside is lifting the fret up. So you hold the wood down as you're lifting the fret up. And typically you don't have very much damage that way. And I don't see any tear out on that one. When that dries out, it could still chip a little bit. So I'm going to set my fret aside here, and we'll move on to the next step. So we're going to see if we can find that joint where the neck joins the body block. That way we can get moisture down in there and heat down in there. And before I get 24 comments about why don't you use the dry heat method to remove the neck, well, in my opinion, that dry heat method is a bunch of hogwash. The wet moisture melts the glue. The heat of the moisture helps melt the glue. It just comes apart much easier, does a much better job. And the water hurts nothing whatsoever. Sure, it makes it really soaked up there for a while, but you let it dry a day or whatever, and it's perfectly fine. It's ready to go again. So we're not going to do the dry method because I don't like that method at all. Been there, done that. I've got a 1/16 inch drill bit. We're gonna just hope we're gonna hit this joint. I don't think we hit it. Let's try it again. I don't think we hit it. Doggone it. Sometimes you just hit it right away and you know it. I'm trying different angles a little bit. Uh-oh, broke my bit off. That wasn't good. Well, stuff happens. Going to switch horses now. I'm going to put heat on this and see if we can lift this up and see how tough that's going to be. Okay, I have a homemade tool here. This is what I would call my bridge heater. I have it set for 420 degrees Fahrenheit. That seems to be about the magic number. Now, not only will it remove bridges or heat up bridges, it will heat up this fretboard extension. It's going to take it a while to get hot. It's only at 73 degrees right now, which is room temperature. So I'll turn the video back on once we're up to temperature. Off camera, I went to the next size drill bit and I angled it back like this and I hit the pocket. You know, it left a little more scar here than I like, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Like I said, there's no zipper. You gotta do what you have to do. You're basically breaking an instrument whenever you take them apart, regardless what anybody else tries to tell you. I don't sugarcoat it, I just tell you like it is. Okay, we're up to 325 degrees. I've taken my tool, which I think this was an artist palette knife. You know, it's very sharp, and I took sandpaper and I slicked it up really slick. And then basically we're gonna start working that under this. What I do though is I'll set it on this heater and make sure the blade's good and hot before we start. Sometimes you're popping the glue loose, sometimes you're cutting fibers. It's much better if you can get the glue to pop loose, but sometimes that don't work. And the myth is that the hide glue will soften and pop loose. But the truth is sometimes hide glue will fall apart, no problem at all. Other times it takes a jackhammer. Hide glue is not consistent in the least, and that's why I don't like hide glue. If it was consistent, I wouldn't mind it so much, but it's not consistent at all. All right, so that's pretty hot. We're up to over 400 degrees. Let me find something to set this heater on here. I'll set it on the back of this temporarily and see if I can start making any progress. Yeah, it's going under there a little bit. It's not setting the world on fire, but it's going under there a little. Yeah, we're going to not rush it. We're going to let it get a little hotter. And I bet you this is hide glue, and it don't seem like this is coming loose easy. So we're going to let it heat up some more. Conversely, Titebond original wood glue. Do not use Titebond 2 or 3. Titebond original wood glue will always come loose consistently. It might be a little harder than your easiest hide glue, but it'll be way easier than your toughest hide glue. And that is just a fact. The Titebond will always come loose at about the same rate every time. The other thing that's really good about hide glue is when you put moisture to it, it just turns loose. So when you put a steam in there, it's gonna pop loose in no time at all. I have a video out there somewhere where a guitar I built and used Titebond original. I took the neck out of it just right at 15 minutes. I wish we could do that with this one, but I can pretty much guarantee you that this hide glue isn't going to turn loose that quick. It's going, but it's not going easy. Yeah, it's not going easy at all. Oh my gosh, it's really not easy at all. I was just hoping it would pop loose, but it's not going to. Oh my gosh, it's really hard. And that's really hot, trust me. I mean, like really hot. You can't put your hand on it right now. So the myths about hide glue are just myths. They're just wives' tales that have been passed down through the years. The reason Stradivari used hide glue is because it was the best glue you could get back then. 300 years plus ago, you know, that's when ox carts were your best form of transportation. Well, guess what? Transportation has improved, and so has glue technology. And if you want to live in the past and use hide glue, my thought is feel free to do that. I have no problem with that. That's your business. But for me, I'm never using this stuff because it's just a pain in the neck it's a pain in the neck on the front end, it's a pain in the neck on the back end. And it turns loose way too often when it shouldn't, where Titebond won't ever do that. In fact, in 40 years using Titebond, I never had a joint come loose that I know of. That's just a fact. All right, we're gonna try it again. It just takes time. It's going, but it ain't going easy. Oh my gosh, I'm pushing really hard. So I'm back under there that far. Now the problem is, how do you get it the rest of the way? The answer is, I don't know for sure, but we'll figure out something. Okay, I put some tape on here. This is the tape I got from Stuart McDonald for doing binding work and things like that. But it works fine for this kind of thing too. And I'm going in from the side. I just took the heater off of it before I turn the camera back on. Oh, it's not doing well. It's very, very, very tight. I'm seriously telling you, this is why I say hide glue is not like it cracked up, you know. People say, oh, you can't use that other glue, it won't come loose with the heat. I've had much better luck getting Titebond loose than I have hide glue. Like I said, sometimes hide glue will just pop loose and you go, wow, that was easy. Other times, it's like this. I think we're loose enough. Got my little homemade nozzle here for my, I guess you'd call this a tea kettle or something. Anyway, this just sits on there snug so that if it did build up too much pressure, it could blow it off there. I have I guess you'd call that a football inflator here, or basketball inflator on the end of this to go down in that hole. And we're going to set it over here on the hot plate. We'll turn it up to its highest setting because this hot plate don't get real hot. I don't have that much water in here. You don't need a lot of water, and less is more in the sense that it'll heat up quicker. We got a weight coming now, so I'll turn the camera off and I'll turn it back on once I start to see some steam build up. Well, my friends, we're getting close. I went ahead and set the hot plate and steamer down lower. I have it set on some buckets. And the reason I do that is because steam, you want the steam to rise up, and you get more steam than you do water that way. I haven't seen steam really coming out of here yet. It's starting to bubble up the hose. I can see it now. And actually, I don't mind if I get water, as long as it's good hot water like that to feed down in there. And it's starting to come. I can see it coming. So we're going to go ahead and get her ready. She's steaming now. And I'll wipe up that little bit of water there. I really don't mind the hot water getting in there. In fact, it speeds up the process in my opinion. One thing I will tell you is you should always have your kettle facing away from you as far as the spout. In case that would happen to blow, it won't blow on you, or at least hopefully not. You can hear the steam coming out of this now. Oh, it did blow. It did blow. My goodness. Well, there you go. There's a good example of what I'm telling you about. There's a lot of pressure on these things. I'm going to turn the heat down to a 4 instead of a max. And I'm starting to wiggle the neck a little bit. That's how you can kind of tell you're making progress. You wiggle it up and down, you wiggle it sideways. Take your time with it, because that's all you can do. You know, again, there's no magic bullet. It's just time and effort. This can get pretty hot, so you want to take precautions you're not burning yourself. By the way, on this little air inflation tool, I've cut the end of it off also. So there's a hole in the end and that little side hole also. There's some movement there, but not very much. You just basically just got to work it and work it and work it and work it. Once I start to see some decent movement in that, well, I have a press that we can use to press it off if we can't just get it off by hand. But right now we're only got minimal movement. This movement like this works that water down into the different little fine cracks. So that's why you do that. I'm starting to see some decent movement now. Yeah, I think we're going to get it here in a minute. What I might do is go ahead and get that press. Okay, I'm putting the press on here. This tightens down around the body. I have leather pads in this. This piece here draws up around the neck heel. And I made this out of steel, the crossbar out of steel. One of my viewers actually sent this to me years ago, and I modified it significantly to make it work for me. For whatever reason, this one's not lining up real good, so I'm going to see if I can't help that a little bit. I'm going to see if I can just get a pad of leather, maybe 2 pads of leather, underneath that heel without touching the rest of the body, and make it come up that way. There we go. We're just about loose now. Yeah, we're out. There you go. And yes, we did get quite a bit of tear out in here. But that really won't matter because we'll glue it back, you know. Again, the hide glue just didn't separate. It just cut the fibers instead. It's not a big deal. It looks bad. It's not a big deal. In fact, it just gives you more gluing surface to glue to, so it's going to be very perfect, strong when we're done. Well, my friends, that's 2/3 of the effort right there. While we're at it, we might as well see if we can get this off. That's going to be another fun one. I'm going to tape it up here first and then get some heat on this. In case you have any doubts whether that's hide glue or not, it's definitely hide glue. It's real sticky now while it's wet. Definitely hide glue. And like I said, it did not come loose here. It just depends on the batch of hide glue. One batch of hide glue is awesome. The next batch sucks canal water. And that's why I don't use it. In case you don't understand, hide glue literally is from boiling hides. That's where it comes from. And they boil all kinds of hides. They boil, you know, cow, goat, horse. So, you know, one's, right there will tell you there's no consistency. I don't always tape it all the way around like this, but since we already know this hide glue doesn't want to turn loose, I want to pry from a lot of different angles. We're taped off pretty good there, that way we won't leave any scars. Okay, our temperature's up to 330, so I'll go ahead and set this on there. I don't know if that's a bone saddle or a plastic saddle. We may be melting it here. It doesn't want to come out of there easily, and it doesn't really matter because we're not going to be reusing it anyway. So, yeah, I think it's bone. No, I think it's plastic. Yeah, either way, I think it is bone. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, we're not going to use it. Not going to use this bridge either. I don't care what shape the bridge comes out. You know, how badly we damage the bridge is not an issue. If we damage the guitar, totally different thing. We're up to 400 degrees, so we're getting there. I'll start warming up my knife. Yep, we're up to the cooking temperature now, so it's just letting this soak on here a little bit, let that heat soak in real good. It would just be awesome if this would just come off real nice. Sometimes they do, you never know. You don't ever know. One time it'll be the easiest bridge removal in the world, the next time it's so hard it just is indescribable. Gonna heat up the ends here too. There is directions on how to make a heater like this on my website. It's got its own page, but it's about how to make a side bender, but it's the exact same technology. All you need is just a block of aluminum and everything else is the same. The only other difference is that I bought the heater with the extra corrugated wrap around it so it wouldn't break. Because when you're bending this around, it's a stiff wire and it likes to break. How do I know? Because I did the first one without this corrugated wrap around here, and you definitely want the wrap around the wire. For the bridge one, for the one that you're using on your side bender, it doesn't matter because you're not moving that wire around. But this one here, you are moving it around a lot, and you definitely want the one that protects it. I can actually see a bit of moisture coming out of the bridge itself and bubbling. So, you know, we know we're hot. And again, I don't care how hot we get this or how much damage we do to this bridge, it's not going to matter. Alright, we're about ready to see if we can make any dent in this. Oh, didn't expect that. Popped right off. Very minimal damage on that one. Little bit of fuzz coming up, but that's always to be expected. Well, there you go. Well, I haven't lost too much of my touch in the last 2 years. We were at least successful. You never know. You never want to get cocky about doing this kind of work because one will go easy, the next one will eat your lunch. Ask me how I know that. Well, my friends, now that we've got the bridge off and the neck off, by the way, I just want to point out that neck came out perfectly clean. It's absolutely clean. Like nothing tore, nothing chipped. You got that least little tiny chip right there, which is nothing. This came off pretty clean too. Right there, not so much, but that doesn't hurt anything. It's not going to be a problem at all. But while we've got it all apart here, I thought I might as well just show you that there is another issue, but I don't think we can address this issue because some amateur messed this up. They've glued this back. It busted right here. It probably got dropped and hit and busted right there, and someone glued it back. They just didn't do a very good job. They didn't get it lined up. You can probably see there that it's not lined up. There's a ridge there. You know, if I can reach in there and push around on it and it happens to come loose, well, we'll see if we can fix it better. But honestly, I can't even get my arm. I can't reach the back of it with even with my long fingers, I still can't reach the back. So if I could get my hand on it, I'd feel comfortable pushing on it and stuff, but pushing on it with a stick or something, that's not, you don't get the same feel, you know? But I really can't get my arm in there. I'm trying every angle I can get to get my hand back there, but I just can't get it. I was hoping I could push from that angle and see if I could push it out, even though it's glued presently. Sometimes you ought to leave well enough alone. It's not loose, it's not, you know, flapping around or anything. I just wish it was done better. It could have been done so much better. It's going to hold, it's just fine, but, you know, when you look at it visually, it's not very nice. Oh well, it is what it is, and I'm going to leave it that way for now. I'll think about it, and if I can think of any way to improve it, I will, but I don't know that I can think of a way right now. Well, my friends, it is the next day, and Only thing I've done so far is I sanded the front of this off so that it would be really straight and smooth. I put it on the belt sander and just made sure this edge is perfectly straight and smooth. I'm going to lay this on here as my pattern. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave just a hair of daylight on this side. So in other words, I'm holding this back from the edge by, I'm just eyeballing it an equal amount all the way down. And then I'm going to take this lead pencil, and it's not a real sharp point, it's just kind of a standard, just your kind of used point, if you will. And I'm tracing around this, and what I'm doing, when I cut this out, I'm going to leave the pencil mark so that it will turn out that this bridge will be just a fuzz bigger than this. You know, it's going to be about a pencil width bigger all the way around. So it's such a minor amount that no one will notice, but it's enough that it'll help cover up any scarring that's on this. So now I'm going to go over to the bandsaw. I'm not going to show it, but I'm going to go cut this out on the bandsaw, and then I'll show you the result of that. Well, my friends, I've sawed that out. I've sanded it down pretty smooth. I'm going to now go through my thickness sander, and I'm going to take this down. I think I'm going to go to 3/8 of an inch. It's at 422 thousandths. 3/8 of an inch, I think, is 375. Off the top of my head, I'm not positive, but I believe that's right. But anyway, I'm going to take it down to about 3/8. We got about 50 thousandths or so to come off of this, roughly. So we're going to go do that on the thickness sander. I'll show you what that looks like. Well, there you go. We got 375 thousandths on the dot. Well, my friends, I have taken time to center this old bridge on the new blank, and so I've got about a pencil lead width all the way around this. So I'm going to take this transfer punch. This is a 13/64. It fits the hole without any wobble, and I'm going to tap it right there so I know where to make a mark in that. Perfect mark. Now, by doing it this way, we're going to make it pretty much an exact copy of this bridge. I'm not too worried about perfect intonation. You know, if I wanted to float the bridge around and move it, but the problem with that is you're going to leave a scar. I'm going to try to not do that. I'm going to try to make it look exactly like it's original. It just is what it is. Everybody would have a different opinion on it, but I would like to try to keep it as original as possible. So that worked really well. I don't know if you can see the little marks in there. But anyway, they're in there. That's all I really need. I can take this off now, and I'll go over to the drill press and drill those out. Now what I'll do is I'll use a little center drill first to make the cavity a little deeper, and that way I'll get it exactly in the spot and it won't drift off on me. Well, I had the light turned on the drill press, but it washes everything out. This is what a center drill looks like. It's
It's a very stiff piece of steel. It's got a drill point on each end and a countersink like. We're just going to try to get a good straight hole without allowing it to drift. I'll go around this way and do it. I'm going to go ahead and turn the light back on, even though it's going to wash this out for you. I'm sorry. It's necessary so I can see. Doing just a little bit of the countersink. That turned out really nice. I use a 3/16" drill. That looks pretty good. I can always do more if I need to. Well, just as a little bit of a sanity check, I laid this on here and double checked that the holes line up perfectly, and of course they do. Look real good, in fact. And when they're laid on there perfectly, there's no scar around this at all. Looks really good. Look, it's going to be perfect. Now that we've got that established, let's go to the next part, and that's this bevel on the ends here. Now, unfortunately, I don't know of a real good, accurate way to do that. I'm just kind of eyeballing the center of what I think is the center of it, of the curve. And that's just my opinion. Now what I want to do is just to, again, as a sanity check more than anything, is just to test this out and see if it's about equal on both sides. So I'll just lock that down there, and then we'll check it on this side. It's so close that nobody would know the difference. So I'm going to call that good. Now we're going to run it over to the thickness sander. At first we'll run it in to just touch this mark, and then we'll creep it in a little bit more. We'll just gradually sneak up on it, as I say, and try to make it match. Okay, this is pretty much done by eye. I mean, we could probably rig up a stop, but it's kind of complicated, so I'm just going to do it by eye. Okay, I'm going to measure this to see how thick this is. Just try to get some kind of an average. 104 thousandths, 114 thousandths. All right, I'm going to shoot for 115 thousandths and try to make it real consistent. We got quite a ways to go. We're 189 now. Well, I said 115 thousandths. I overshot it. We're at 115 and a half. So if you took an inch, divided into 1,000 pieces, we're a half of one of those pieces off. I'll take that. Okay, so now I'm just doing an eyeball, sanity check type thing. And it looks good, but honestly, it does look a little bit chunky. So 375 is what I stopped at. I think I'm gonna take it down to 350 on this top part here. And I think that's gonna make it look real good, real good. Well, my friends, I took it down to 350 thousandths. Let's see how accurate that was. Can you see it? 350 on the nose. Yeah, you can be so accurate with that machine I made. It's just unbelievable the accuracy you can get with that. It's basically doing machining work while woodworking, which I really appreciate. Okay, that looks real good. I like the look of that. I think 350 is a good thickness. It's strong enough, yet not clunky looking. Now, it's still clunky looking because it's still squared off. We're gonna need to round off a lot of this. I'm not gonna film it. I'm just gonna go over to the sander and just take this and round it off. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. Okay, that's looking even a little better. I think I'm gonna take some 220 sandpaper, work this over a little bit. I think this is 220. Yep, it is. And I just want to get rid of lines. Like, even where I sanded there, you can kind of see a straight line. And I just want it to blend. I don't want to see lines so much. And even these lines right here, I don't mind them as much, but I don't really want them to be standout-ish, real sharp looking. And then, of course, this bevel here, this curve, it's got that, fairly rough sandpaper from that thickness sander. It's not real rough, it's just a little bit. And I just want to soften that a little bit. I think it's like 100 grit sandpaper, something like that. So we'll soften all these little spots. I think 220 3M sandpaper is about as good as you can do on instruments. I use it a lot. It just seems to be my go-to grit for almost anything. Again, I'm just hitting the sharpest parts. Wherever it's sharp and your hand can feel that, I'm just trying to round them over a little bit. Doesn't have to be real round, just enough to get rid of that sharp edge. That's looking real good now. Yeah, that's looking real fine. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and mount this permanently on there. And we'll let that set overnight. I think I'm going to go ahead and glue it up. I'm not going to cut the slot in it on purpose, and that way I can manipulate the slot a little bit to get the intonation perfect. But that's a fine looking bridge right there. Looks really nice. No one's going to be able to tell that that was homemade. And of course, by the time it's oiled and all that, it's going to look even way better. I didn't round the front of it off very much, but just enough that you don't feel a sharpness there. I think that's about as good as she can be done. So what I'm going to do now is line up the holes real good and clamp this down, try to get it just as perfect as I can get it. Then we'll trace around it and get rid of any finish that's underneath that tracing. That looks pretty good right there, but we'll have to get her locked in place. try to put as few clamps on it as I can for this purpose, because it just makes it awkward to draw or trace around it. But I want it clamped pretty securely so it doesn't move while I'm tracing it. And there, of course, it's already moving. Got to get the close-up specs on here. Look at it really good. Look down in the holes. Make sure we're getting through the holes just fine. That's pretty solid. I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm going to look at it again with a real detailed eye here and see if it looks like it's in the right place. That looks good enough to me. Then I'm going to put a brand new blade in here. These blue X-Acto blades that I've got are just incredibly good blades. I really like them. Someone recommended them years ago and they're just awesome. When you do this, if you ever do it, you want to try to make sure your point doesn't wander away from the thing. That's what happens. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that the point is slightly angled toward the bridge so it doesn't wander out into open territory. And you try not to cut the wood. You're just trying to scratch through the finish and just feel the wood a little bit. And when you get to the end of something like this, you want to ease up your pressure a lot, because you can drag it out past where you want to be, and you don't want that to happen. And when you're going with the grain like I am now, you even use lighter pressure, because you'll cut right down through the top. It's very easy to cut through the grain going with the grain. I think that should have it. Yeah, that did it. It's very minimal. Barely have to chip any finish out of the way. I'm going to my little planer blade holder. This is just a piece of aluminum stock that I just used. I got it out of the scrap bin, nothing specific. It holds my planer blade, and I like it because I can pick easy with it. You can use a chisel. I just prefer this. It does a better job for me. And I'm really having trouble seeing my line, at least in places. There's not much there to take off, which is good. What I'm trying to do now is I'm scraping off the hide glue too. I'd like to be bare, just bare wood to bare wood. Often when you can't see the line, when you turn like your sharp edge down and drag from what you think the line is and pull it back toward you, toward the inside of the circle, it'll pull away the finish. So one way or the other, you'll get it done. Wow, that's a tough one, boy. That's one of the tougher ones I've done. It doesn't show up for some reason. Usually they show up pretty good. Everyone's a little different, when you got a lot of heavy finish, it's almost easier because you just get under it and just chip it up. This is not that way. Well, that's pretty good. Let me lay it on here. Usually, this finish is so thin. Usually, I can lay it on there and do this and tell exactly that it's inside the finish. But on this case, That's not the case. It's very minimal finish, which is good, but it's also bad for trying to line this up. I think we're just going to have to go with that. I feel like that's it, but man, it's one of the toughest ones I've done because the finish is so thin on this, which, like I said, that's a good thing. You don't want a heavy, thick finish. But it sure does make it tough for lining this up. Alright, I'm just going to go around and just try to remove hide glue as much as I can. Okay, I'm just going to have to say that's good enough and go with it. Now what I'm going to do here is a little, I don't normally do this. On normal wood I would just leave it smooth and glue to it, but with the exotics like this, they get glazed over when you sand them. And really all I'm doing is just killing some of that glazing. They get, they have a lot of oils in them and they just glaze over and get slick. So all I'm doing is taking this tooth blade and scraping it lightly. I'm not trying to dig deep into the finish. Just getting rid of the glazing. It's still perfectly flat. Feels really smooth. I just want those wood fibers to be able to touch the glue and not be blocked by the, I don't know, the oils and things that are in these exotics. And I think that'll do. That feels good. Okay, well, we're getting real close to where the rubber meets the road here. We're about ready to glue this on. Well, my friends, I've tried a bunch of different cauls up in there. This is the one that seems to fit the best. I've put some two-way tape on that. I'm going to go ahead and get this baby glued up, and we'll just have to see how this goes. I got a little bit of water there to clean up my brush. Typically, I put glue on with a damp brush. Seems to spread the glue a little better. I can't stress this enough that you want 100% coverage, not 99.9. You want to make sure glue gets into every nook and cranny, and you want to make sure that there's no air pockets, air bubbles. That's why I use a brush. I work it in. I want it worked in really, really well. And like if you go over it 2 or 3 times like this and back and forth, different directions, you'll get rid of those air pockets. And now we're going to do the same thing on here. Hopefully we won't need very much glue to coat this. The minimal amount of glue, the better, really. You want 100% coverage, but that's different than, slopping the glue on. You want 100% coverage, but as thin as you can cover it at 100%, you're better off. The thinner you can get it, the better you'll like it. Mainly because it won't float around as much and try to move on you. So I'm wiping off excess glue here. We're just going to have to go for it here and see if this works. Now the only problem is I smeared it around there and some of the holes have kind of clogged up on me. I'm wiping off some of the extra glue here so I can see my lines better. I think I'll try this punch and see if it'll help me line this bridge up a little bit better. Seems to be in pretty good alignment that way. Looks really good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the caul in there. Alright, I've got the two-way tape on it. We're going to put the caul in place. I'm not expecting miracles, but I'm hoping the two-way tape will hold it in there long enough for me to get my clamps on it and stuff. Sometimes it does, sometimes not so much. Of course, these have to be adjusted the wrong way. Of course, why not? Looks really good, actually. I'm hoping it don't move. Oh no, don't tell me the caul and this are too thick. It's not gonna go. Just figures. Just by a hair, man. Now, I know I've used this before, probably with a slightly thinner bridge, because it's just barely not going. Oh man, what a bummer. Well, I don't have to have that aluminum piece there, but I prefer to have it, but I don't have to have it. Just, you don't ever catch a break whenever you get doing things like this. If it can be a problem, it is a problem. You can pretty much bet on it. Okay, we're just going to go for it. Yeah, you just don't want to try to get in too big a hurry on something like this. Everything, every detail about it is important, so take your time. The glue doesn't dry that fast. You've got 15-20 minutes. And you want to make sure you use your time that you got and do it right. As that clamp settles, the glue keeps squeezing out. I think we're just about there. I'm looking through those holes. They all look good. No matter how good you get it, it can always be a hair better. It doesn't really matter how good you get it. That's just the nature of the beast. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Go down here. I'm going to try to, I'm going to put another one up on the top part of this. I'm going to see if we can't get one on the lower edge too. Now I'd like to get just a little bit more on these ends if I can get something on the ends, and I don't know if I have anything that's going to work for that or not, but I'm going to see. Okay, my friends, I've got 2 more clamps on this with some leather pads there. Now we're going to go through and take a brush and clean up this glue as best as I can clean it up, because now is the time. First thing I'm doing is just wetting it down, kinda. Go back through a couple times with the wet brush like that, and you can clean up a whole lot of glue with a brush. You also smear it around real thin, which at first that seems like a bad idea, but honestly, when you water it down and spread it around real thin, even after you take the clamps off, you can wash it off with a damp cloth real easy. So if you get rid of the big clumps of glue, you're way better off. Of course, I try to get it all off right now, but if you're just left with a very thin residue later, you can wash that off with a damp cloth. Well, that gets about 99% of it right there. Like I said, there'll be a little bit of residue left on the surface when we're done, when we take the clamps off tomorrow, but that you can wipe that off with a damp cloth. So it looks real good. I think we lined up very well. I'm going to look through the holes one more time to make sure nothing slipped. As far as I can tell, it looks pretty good. It's honestly difficult to tell. It really is. I think it's as good as we can do it. So we're going to wait till tomorrow. See you then.